Well, thank you for staying with us. Just before the break, we were engaging Mr. Mackay Rigava. Mr. Rigava, thank you so much for your patience. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you.
Just for the sake of time, let's continue with our conversation. Namibia, in a bid to address the land issue, held its second land conference. Would you say that the resolutions that came from this conference were adopted, are in line with, addressing the country's land issues?
Yes, definitely. If we refer to the resolutions of the Second National Land Conference, which was held in 2018, a number of those resolutions are really geared towards improving the land governance in Namibia. And they are very much in line with the provisions of both the Framework and Guidelines on Land Policy in Africa and the Voluntary Guidelines for Responsible Governance of Tenure. Especially when you look at the issues that were raised during the Second National Land Conference regarding land redistribution, land acquisition, both and resettlement, as well as issues that were raised regarding administration of communal land. I strongly believe, and as FAO, that the capacity that we have imparted to the policymakers will be instrumental in ensuring that they can drive policies and legislation, as well as make good recommendations on institutional reforms that will be instrumental in driving the implementation of the resolutions of the Second National Land Conference.
How can FAO, Mr. Rigava, assist in promoting responsible governance of tenure with respect to all forms of tenure, including public, private, commercial, indigenous, customary, and informal?
FAO is a champion on land governance. Just to wind back a bit, when the voluntary guidelines were endorsed by the World Committee on Food Security back in 2012, FAO was mandated to lead their promotion and implementation across the globe. And Namibia, after realizing the benefits of the voluntary guidelines on the responsible governance of tenure as an instrument that can support the commitment, the African commitment on improving land policies through the AU declaration, they requested FAO to support parliamentarians, first of all, in entrenching the principles of responsible governance and making sure that those principles can apply to all forms of tenure and allow access to natural resources for all land users without discrimination. So we believe that FAO, through its commitment to support the government using its country programming framework, will be an important partner to ensure good governance of land and improve food security in Namibia.
Just lastly, Mr. Rigava, and very briefly, back to what we spoke about in the beginning, the two-day training session. Would you say that the training was necessary to our lawmakers to ensure that these, issues are effectively addressed through the rule of law?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Just a little bit of a background statement is that at the Second National Land Conference, FAO presented the voluntary guidelines, as well as how they can be implemented in coherence with the African commitment, which is the Framework and Guidelines on Land Policy in Africa. And after that presentation, the policymakers, the parliamentarians, requested FAO to have a dedicated session to raise awareness among parliamentarians on the voluntary guidelines on the responsible governance of tenure. And this was, of course, a realization by the parliamentarians themselves that there was a lot of value in implementing the principles, the international principles on governance of tenure that are promoted through the VGGT, which is the voluntary guidelines. And therefore, this training will go a long way, which is the second training which we have conducted, will go a long way in strengthening the capacity of parliamentarians in the application of these principles. It has also raised awareness and appetite for the parliamentarians to refer to the outfit of voluntary guidelines tools that have been developed since 2012 to support land governance across the world, which we also highlighted to the parliamentarians for them to use as guidance in three areas: in their lawmaking role, in the budgetary allocation, as well as in their oversight role. But the fourth element, which is the representation, will be embedded in their oversight role.
Thank you.
The training focused specifically on the Standing Committee on Natural Resources that deals specifically with governance of natural resources, including land, fisheries, forests, and soils.
Mr. Rigava, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us here on the Daily Roundup.
Thank you very much, and goodbye.
That was FAO land tenure expert Mackay Rigava speaking to us there. We'll be right back shortly.